This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update video for August 23rd, 8:30 p.m. Here's the Hurricane Track program showing the position of Hurricane Danielle on Wednesday afternoon around 1 p.m. This is when it is forecast to become a major hurricane, located about 865 miles east-northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico, moving to the northwest. Now, I think this system could be stronger than this at this time. I'm thinking maybe flirting with Category 4 status between this position and when it closes in on Bermuda. Let's go ahead and get this in motion and show you what's going to happen here. On Saturday the 28th is when this animation stops. It'll be 338 nautical miles to the east-southeast of Bermuda at that time, and the wind should be around 110 miles an hour. There it is in its closest position right there on Saturday afternoon, 110 mile per hour winds. Now notice the small wind field on this. If this forecast pans out, they will not get any tropical storm force sustained winds in Bermuda. In fact, it should be sunny and good weather in Bermuda if this forecast pans out. Now, if the system comes about 100 miles or 150 miles to the east of Bermuda, they're going to be under the tropical storm force wind canopy, and that would require tropical storm warnings. In fact, there may be tropical storm watches issued for Bermuda over the next 36 hours. In fact, our current feature will be Bermuda if it looks like Bermuda is going to get the tropical storm force wind field. We're still trying to make the call on that. But the model indications right now are indicating it's going to be far enough away from Bermuda that they are not going to have sustained tropical storm force winds. But we'll keep a close eye on that, and the people in Bermuda should be paying very close attention to this system. All right, let's take a look at all the storms in history that were in this position where Danielle is right now. And if there's three that were in this position around this date between August 22nd and August 24th. We start out with Umberto. We talked about that in the last tropical update video. That system moved north, did not affect any land. In 1998, Danielle was in this position, and that moved off to the west-northwest. And Fran, of course, hit North Carolina as a major hurricane back in 1996. That was also in this position right around this time of the year. So luckily, these two tracks are not supposed to happen with Danielle as the system is supposed to head out to sea. The different pattern, different steering flow now than there was back in 1996 when Fran was out there. So I don't think the people in North Carolina need to be particularly concerned about Danielle. All right, let's take a look at the model history for Danielle. And this is on the Hurricane City model history page at Hurricane City right below the tracking chart. And you saw here yesterday, yesterday's map here showed that the Euro had it going south of Bermuda and then kind of going to the north, but had it coming much closer to Bermuda. Now today's run of the Euro has it well east of Bermuda, so the trend is for this to be further to the east. And this model map, this page is updated on a daily basis every evening to show you the latest model runs compared to where they were 2 days ago. So this is a good reference to what is going on with the model consistency with Hurricane Danielle. Now here are all of the tracks that all the hurricanes in history that were developed in the region that Danielle developed in. And you'll notice that all of these, of course, were hurricanes that made landfall. And there's some significant ones here. In fact, the 1899 hurricane came very close to the Florida coastline, very high winds in central Florida, and affected the Outer Banks. And then in 1906, another major hurricane developed in this position and hit the South Carolina, North Carolina border. 1961, Esther formed out here and went north and affected the northeastern United States. Hurricane Allen in 1980, Category 5 hurricane, went through the Caribbean and did a lot of damage in the Caribbean islands and came into the Mexico-Texas border. And Fabian in 2003 raked Bermuda pretty good. That would be a track that would be similar to what we're looking at with Danielle, but it looks like Danielle may not do this type of a track. It'll be a little bit further to the east, but this is why Bermuda needs to watch this. Of course, Isabel was in this position back in 2003 on September 6th, became a major Category 5 hurricane twice, and ended up slamming the North Carolina-Virginia border. Hurricane Dean in 2007 was in this position on August 13th, went through the Caribbean and raked the Yucatan Peninsula. And Hurricane Bill last year affected the Canadian Maritimes, and this was also in this position on August 15th and went west of Bermuda. Now, Fred posted an interesting thing on canetalk.com, and he talked about the amount of named storms that developed before 35 degrees west that affected land. 30% of all the hurricanes in history that became a tropical storm before 35 degrees west made landfall, and the rest went out to sea. Out of that 30%, 14% made landfall in the northeastern United States. So there's sort of a, almost half the storms that made landfall in the Northeast that developed this far out in the Atlantic. So I thought that was a rather interesting statistic. And Hurricane Bill was the last one to affect the land, and that was up in the Canadian Maritime, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland back in last year. So that's a very interesting statistic, and thanks to Fred for that. All right, here's what's going on in the Atlantic. We have Danielle out here, and we have a new Invest 96L off the coast of Africa. What's that going to do? We'll get to that in just a minute here. Here's the forecast, the official forecast in cone of error from the National Hurricane Center, and you can see that Bermuda is still on the western edges of the cone of error if you extrapolate this, but it looks like it'll be a Cat 2 east of Bermuda. I still think this will be a major hurricane at that time. We'll have to see what happens. But so far, good news. Looks like this will pass harmlessly out to sea if everything goes as forecast. Here are the models. And again, the Euro is in this pack as well. Tightly clustered. Whenever you see models tightly clustered like this, you have to figure they're pretty on the ball, and they've got a good handle on this system. Now, here's the European model going out to September 2nd. And you'll see that this is not Danielle. This is what will become Earl. And Earl is just east of Bermuda at that time as well, following in the tracks of Danielle. So the European model is indicating this is also going to be a recurvature situation of this 96L out in the North Atlantic. So we'll have to wait and see if that plays out. Now here is Danielle out in the East Atlantic on the water vapor image here. And here is 96L right off the coast of Africa. Now this system out here we were watching yesterday has pretty much fallen apart. So once Earl develops and moves on, we're going to have a little quiet period here for the next round of Cape Verde systems to come off. So we've dodged round one if 96L moves out to sea. We have to watch that closely because there's nothing etched in stone in long-term, long-range models. All right, let me go back to the HurTrack programs. I believe I had the best performing model on this. And you know what? I lost it here. I had it graphically. Well, anyway, let me just tell you, the best performing model is the TVCN model, and the TVCN model has this heading. This is a consensus model, corrected consensus model that eliminates biases on the models, and this indicates that we're going to see this system come just east of Bermuda and start heading to the north. That's the TVCN model. It's only off by about 23.7 miles so far, going out 3 days on this system. So that's the best performing model. So it's looking good. This is going to head out to sea. There's nothing to worry about. That's it for now. I'll be back with another update tomorrow night on the situation. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.